Okay, so here we have the Arcana of Nature by Hudson Tuttle, which is, it's got this sort of red, it seems kind of like a mixture of cloth and leather. I'm not really sure what to call this, but it's pretty worn, as you can see by those marks. And it's got some gilding, or gilt lettering on the front there and on the spine. So if we open it up here, we can see all the pages are pretty well intact, and we can see another brief title there, Arcana of Nature, which means the secrets of nature. And here's a title page with a frontispiece and engraving on the left there. So the title, it looks like it says here, Arcana of Nature, or The History and Laws of Creation. Our bark is reason, nature is our guide, by Hudson Tuttle. And you can see there's a few different publishers for different regions here, and it was published in 1895. And then here is the frontispiece, which is this diagram of sort of, it's labeled as the progress of life. So it shows down here protozoa and amoeboids at the igneous rock level, and then it branches out into these different forms of life, going through the different ages, so the Cambrian, the Silure, Old Redstone, or Old Red Sandstone, Coal, and all of these other versions of Tertiary, Alluvial. And then there's some more branching here on the other side. There's a vegetable branch, Frensgamia and Cryptogamia, it looks like. And then there's an animal branch, and then you can see there's all these different offshoots, which sort of work up to here, and then at the top they have labeled man with a crown on it. That's just sort of showing humanity as the end result of this natural process of the development of life. So that's the front diagram there. If we flip through it, we can see just another little publishing note there. It's got the year again, 1895. And then we have this publisher's notice. It says the Arcana of Nature, or Publisher's Notice. The Arcana of Nature as the work of an uneducated boy, written when he was little past his 17th year, and occupied all the day at exerting toil, having the evening only to give to the task, has been well said to be one of the most, if not the most, absolute evidences of spiritual beings communicating with mankind. Many editions have been sold. It was also translated into the German language. Büchner, the great materialist, read it in German, where its origin is not given, and was delighted, and moreover, used passages in the composition of his mind and force, besides making lengthy quotations. And when he visited America, he took especial measures to become acquainted with Mr. Tuttle, whom he regarded as the author, for he ridiculed the idea of spirit control. The book was first published 35 years ago, being written 6 or 7 years previously. We may boldly state that every scientific book written at that time is now obsolete, while the Arcana took such advanced grounds that not yet has science overtaken it, and it is as fresh as though written yesterday. In this new English edition, the author has taken occasion to write many explanatory notes, etc., thus increasing its value. Although improved, the plain story of creation remains the same, written in the simple language a child can understand, yet grasping principles which scientists and philosophers have vainly sought. And then you can see that was written in January 1st, 1895 by what looks like H.A. Copley. So that's just a notice from the publisher. And then here we have a dedication from Hudson Tuttle, the author, and it says, for years I have been led through the paths of science by invisible guides, who have manifested the earnest zeal of a father for a feeble and truant child. They have upheld my faltering footsteps. They have supported my weary frame, and in darkest hours thrown their sacred influence around me. Like the reader of these pages, I am a student in their portico, receiving my mental food from their hands. From these invisible authors I draw the concealing veil, and to them dedicate this volume. So the author here was apparently only 17 when he wrote this, and he claims it was inspired by these sort of invisible influences that were guiding him. And here's the plan of the book. It says, 1. To show how the universe was evolved from chaos by established laws inherent in the constitution of matter. 2, to show how life originated on the globe and to detail its history from its earliest dawn to the beginning of written history. 3, to show how the kingdoms, divisions, classes, and species of the living world originated by the influence of conditions operating on the primordial elements. 4, to show how man originated from the animal world and to detail the history of his primitive state. And 5, to show the origin of mind and how it is governed by laws. So that's the supposed plan of the entire book here, and here we can see all of the different chapters. We've got chapter 1, a general survey of matter. Chapter 2, the origin of worlds. Chapter 3, the theory of the origin of worlds. Chapter 4, history of the earth, from the gaseous ocean to the Cambrian. And in part 2, we've got chapter 5, life and organization. Chapter 6, plan of organic beings. Chapter 7, influence of conditions. And then the contents continue. We've got chapter 8, dawn of life. Chapter 9, the history of life through the Silurian formation. And then chapter X, the Old Red Sandstone series. Chapter 11, we've got Carboniferous or Coal Formation. Chapter 12, Permian and Trias. And then chapter 13, and it keeps going on here. We've got tertiary, a chapter of inferences for chapter 16, it looks like. Chapter 17, Origin of Man. And this is something that is pretty common in older books like this. You can kind of get things that are a little bit offensive to us these days, where you use man to refer to all of humanity, and it feels a little bit sexist. But it was just, that's just how so many authors wrote back then, and it's, we're a little bit more progressive now, typically. Chapter 18, the human brain. Chapter 19, structure and functions of the brain and nervous system, studied with references to the origin of thought. Chapter 20, the source of thought studied from a philosophical standpoint. Then chapter 21, retrospect of the theory of development, as herein advanced conclusions, facts followed from their source to their legitimate results. And here we have the beginning of the first chapter. You can see the Arcana of Nature, part 1, the pretty fancy font there. So this is a general survey of matter. It says, we are placed in the midst of a blooming creation, surrounded by constantly changing scenes and phenomena, exciting our admiration by loveliness or awe by their sublimity. Within and without, wherever the mind turns, it meets the stern play of mysterious forces. We know creation exists and that we are its components. That is all the child or the savage who stands on the plane of observation can comprehend, and the philosopher can boast of little more. The why and the wherefore are veiled from our ken, and we know not how or by whom the mighty fabric creation was set in motion. The scaffolding has been removed, and the manner in which the edifice was constructed obscured. The creation of today covers up that of yesterday from which it was born. Yeah, you can feel a little bit of this sort of imperialist tone, I guess you could say, in there when it refers to what are considered uneducated people as savages. That is a little offensive to the modern era, I think. So here it says, life is born of motion. It is first traceable in the mutual attraction between atoms in solution, arranging them in definite forms. In affinity, the attraction and repulsion of particles. It perhaps may appear startling that the forces which create the crystal are living forces, but the data are many which support such a conclusion. In the lower order of animals, where life nearest approaches the mineral, the form and skeleton of the animal conform to the laws of crystalline growth, as the plates of the sea urchin, the rays of the asteria, and the calcareous framework of the coral. And even in the higher mammalia, the bones always are crystalline, being formed of elongated crystals which grow in their cartilaginous beds precisely as they would in a solution. The petrifaction of wood, I guess, works the same way. So I'm just sort of flipping through here now to take a look at any other notable areas. Here it has some diagrams of, looks like, embryos developing, And then we've also got some more images here of different creatures. And then we've got a few larger engravings in the back. This one, it looks like it's related to the mastodon and an early version of a mammoth or an elephant. And then we've got this depiction of the age of reptiles. Not very detailed engravings, but they're still interesting to look at. And it's nice to have these illustrations to kind of reinforce the points made in the book. Alright, so we're getting pretty close to the end here. Alright, here it says, matter is eternal. Its existence depends on fixed and determinate attributes. It has weight, form, extension, divisibility, and without these it could not exist. On these the universe rests, so that the principles of nature can be philosophically referred to the constitution of matter itself. If chaotic matter is left free to obey these inherent principles, it will evolve the order of creation we behold around us. So long as matter has its present attributes, it will act as it has done and produce the effects we now see it produce. The attributes on which its existence depends are fully sufficient to account for every effect, either in the external world or the world of mind. They exhibit life, and there are human beings. They exhibit intelligence, and there are intelligent beings. So it's just sort of saying that the laws of nature are inherent in matter itself, I think is what it was saying there. Alright, so that's the Arcana of Nature by Hudson Tuttle from 1895. Just a strange little philosophical work. Thanks for watching. Bye.